rights didn't write your resume, but civil rights made somebody read your resume. Don't act like whatever you achieved because you were that smart. You got there because some unlettered grandmas who never saw an inside of a college campus put their bodies on the line in Alabama and Mississippi and sponsored you up here.
National Action Network engages people. We engage people every day on the ground. We engage our state legislators, our national legislators in the capitals of cities and in Washington, D.C. We, of course, engage corporate leaders and seek to hold them responsible and accountable to communities across this country.
National Action Network has a history of creating change and being a voice for the voiceless. From Stand Your Ground in Florida to Stop and Frisk in New York, and countless cases of police brutality and voting rights violations across the country.
The National Action Network is today's version of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and its economic arm, Operation Breadbasket. When Reverend Sharpton was just a teenager, my father brought him into the movement, and my father served as the president of the chapter, the New York chapter of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And Reverend Sharpton, as a teenager, became the president of Youth in Action, which was the youth development, the youth arm of Operation Breadbasket. What NAN is today is the embodiment of the ideals of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and its economic arm, the Operation Breadbasket, that the community needs to take care of its own, needs to uplift the issues of the poor and the vulnerable, and needs to be the voice for the voiceless, and that faith leaders who have proven that they are able to change this nation, that faith leaders again need to step up.
And National Action Network has a House of Justice. It was dedicated and named by one of the mentors of Reverend Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson. And we try to live up to the meaning of that name, the House of Justice. And every Saturday, we hold a community rally that is broadcast throughout the nation, both on internet and on radio. We make sure that people can come there that are looking for help, that need assistance, that are looking for referrals. We hold a monthly legal night in order to give people in our community an affordable way to get direction on some of the legal challenges that face them in a community. All of our chapters duplicate those efforts in many ways, which is how we stay connected to the communities that we serve. We try to know what the needs are within that community, and we try to help people meet those needs.
I'm not asking you to think about what we've already done so you can be satisfied with our progress. I know this isn't the National Satisfaction Network. This is the National Action Network. But I am asking you to draw inspiration from the fact that we know change is possible. I am living testament that change is possible. We know we have the ability to put our shoulders to the wheel of history and steer America towards the promise of a better day. We know that we stand on others' shoulders, and step by step, inch by inch, we make progress.
One of my primary focuses within the organization is to engage our members on a national level. And the organization is still growing. We have over 60 chapters now. And it's important that our members become active members of the organization, not just supporting us from a distance, but to really become active participants of change. And so that's what we gear to increase and to promote.
We operate 7 regional offices in New York, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Miami, Indianapolis, Los Angeles, and Detroit, with an efficient staffing that coordinates the work of our chapters.
National Action Network's Youth Move provides a voice and a vehicle for the next generation of social change agents. Young people across the country advocate for issues addressing social justice, education, youth violence, and conflict resolution. Youth Move nurtures young people in gaining skills in various areas, including leadership training, social networking, media and legislative advocacy, and public speaking. Youth Move has a weekly program called The Huddle that allows young people to converse in a setting that is informal, safe, and with their peers about issues of relevance in the community.
I think what makes us the best, what makes us a leading organization, is that we believe in the work, we take it seriously, and we do it diligently.
I was raised by a single mother after my father left. Unlike when my father was home and we had a nice middle-class home, we were in a tenement in Brownsville. And I would tell my sister that was adjusting to this new life as I was, that we had roaches. I don't know if you know anything about roaches in Oxford and in England. And there were roaches all over the kitchen table. I ran hurriedly into the bedroom to awaken my sister and said, Cheryl, come. I told you we have roaches. She says, leave me alone. I made her get up. She stumbled into the kitchen. She cut on the light. She looked, and there were no roaches. I said, they were right there. I swear they were there. She was very angry, furious, stumbled back into the bedroom. I cut off the light, went back to bed. I know that I'm in the doghouse for a while. She goes back to sleep. I go back into the kitchen, and I figured it out. When you cut on the light, roaches run. As long as there's no light on the roaches, they will have a 6-course meal on your kitchen table. Ever since that day, I've spent most of the rest of my life cutting the light on roaches in society and making them run in their holes, because roaches will not tarry if you put on the light. And that is what I challenge you. When you find those in society that give us the elements of unfairness, if you can't do anything else, put a light on it, and the light will make others in power, in influence, and those that are just regular citizens move toward trying to correct what you're trying to illuminate. Ultimately, that's what King did. Ultimately, that's what Mandela did. Ultimately, that's what Gandhi did.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
Dr. King said, and I quote, "Somewhere we must come to see that human progress never rolls on the wheels of inevitability." Let me emphasize that. Never rolls on the wheels of inevitability. He went on to say, it comes through tireless efforts and persistent work of dedicated individuals who are willing to be co-workers with God. Or as my mom would say, doing God's work. That's what all of you are all about as you fight for economic justice, racial and gender equality, and trying to stem the tide of new attempts to restrict the right of our people to vote. It's the everyday actions that you inspire that are going to keep human progress rolling forward and keep it from sliding back.
We are here today because we must have this nation deal with the fact that just like 50 years ago, the states had taken a position to rob the human rights and civil rights of citizens with states' rights protected laws that disempowered federal law. We've seen in Ferguson, Missouri, we've seen in Staten Island, where state grand juries have suspended the right of due process. And we come to Washington to call on this Congress and national government to do what was done before. We need national legislation and intervention to save us from state grand juries that say it's all right to choke people even on tape and you won't bring them to court. When I saw a black man put his hand on the Bible, become president. But I've also been inspired today when I see young white kids holding up signs saying Black Lives Matter. I know the media won't show that. I know they'll say we only had 500 rather than the thousands. But I don't care how much you try to distort it, truth crushed the earth shall rise again. The people united will never be defeated. Because God gave me a little light and I'm going to let it shine. I'm going to shine on Michael Brown. I'm going to shine on Eric Gardner. God gave me my light. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
National Action Network chapters are often the first line of defense when it comes to responding to issues that have a direct impact in our community. They are the grassroots responders to issues to ensure that injustices are uncovered. The National Action Network staff work with our chapters to ensure that these injustices are brought to light and that all people are treated equally and fairly.
We are not better if the least among us are still suffering. So I see Rev every single day pushing hard on his agenda to uplift the least among us. Other things I see that one may not be as keen on viewing is there's a real coordinated effort. NAN doesn't work in a vacuum. NAN partners with multiple different organizations on different elements of its agenda, whether it's social justice or environmental justice or LGBTQ issues. NAN finds partnerships and finds partners, and also is part of a coordinated effort, not just in terms of other not-for-profits, but a coordinated effort politically.
When I was down in Texas, everybody's celebrating the day that the civil rights law was finally passed. Remember, there were decades in which people sacrificed and worked hard. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it happens as long as we don't purposely give our power away. Every obstacle put in our path should remind us of the power we hold in our hands each time we pull that lever or fill in that oval or touch that screen. We just have to harness that power. We've got to create a national network committed to taking action. We can call it the National Action Network.
And say, I don't know when and I don't know how, but God will make a way somehow. Spiritual people don't calculate their steps, but they know their steps are ordered by the Lord. Spiritual people. That's what brought us this far. I tell my daughters,
so many of our children are victims of senseless gun violence. And this leader right here stood his ground and stood with the Trayvon Martin family and the Trayvon Martin Foundation and so many other Trayvon Martins all over the United States. And he did it with passion. He did it with commitment. And he was dedicated to our cause. And that's why we are indebted to him for life. On behalf of Essence and all of us here, we present to you, Reverend Sharpton, the Essence Icon Award. Thank you so much.
Every day I get up, I have only one wish, and that is that every morning I wake up, that every bigot, every brutal person, every wrong person in this land will say, damn, he's up again.
These shows give us a unique ability to support our efforts in communicating to the nation the work that the organization is doing on a daily basis in a way that few progressive organizations are able to do.
We see a new America. We see an America of equality, of justice, of fairness. We march because we're going to bring a new America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice, not for some, not for who you choose, not for who you like, but for all. We believe in a new America. It's time to march for a new America. It's time to organize for a new America. It's time to register and vote for a new America. We're on our way. We're on our way. We're on our way.
Reverend Sharpton, thank you so much also for your work over the years. You're right. I have known you since my time as an early young prosecutor, and you were always bringing justice to the streets of New York and now to the nation. And we're so grateful for your guidance and for the group and everything that you all have contributed to. You've been partners in this struggle for years, and I know that it will continue. You've been focusing on the right to vote, but more than that, you've expanded the notion of the civil rights movement as Dr. King was expanding it, to cover not just voting rights, but access to education, to employment, to focus on nonviolence, and you've driven those important conversations.
And obviously I want to thank Reverend Sharpton for heading a great organization that has really stood at the forefront of a great deal of the progress that we've made over the recent years. Direction that I think is inconsistent with the great legacy of that party. And after all, it's the party of Abraham Lincoln. Would Lincoln look at these candidates and look at the things that they are saying as they race to the bottom and think that that is in some ways consistent with what he did for that party and for our nation. I hope that at some point sanity will raise its wonderful head and people will see the wrong way in which the party is now going. There are new forms of old issues, and we have to recognize that. And what we have to do is come up with new solutions to deal with these new problems. The National Action Network has consistently been at the forefront of crafting 21st century solutions for these 21st century problems, led by a person who has been a supporter of mine, an advisor, and a person who is indeed a personal friend. We need the same commitment. We need the same courage. We need the same perseverance as Martin Luther King. To be dedicated to the work. To be dedicated to the work so that we leave a country better than we found it. It won't be perfect, but we can always make it better. And that's why I am optimistic, because I know that you will be committed in that way. I will be committed to you in that way, and with great leaders like this man and great organizations like this one, I am confident that a 21st century America can be better than the 20th century America that Dr. King helped to shape in so many fundamentally good ways.
Leonardo, we're anti-exclusion by the Academy and by those that run those major movie studios that have made the decision. No justice! No justice! We're here today, and there are gatherings that have been called in the last few days to put the Academy and the movie industry on notice. That last year, when they came with an all-white nominations at the top of the Oscar night, they said we'll do better, give us a chance. We did. They did nothing.
The city of Flint residents are being sold bad water. They're being sold bad water and told to like it. That's just as unjust as slavery. That's just as unjust as genocide. And injustice is an injustice.